Okay, this video for our youth, part number 2, is about the game or the grace and being asked to make such a silly choice. And navigating Egypt, again, is rather interesting. People don't understand that in this sectarianism, this constant social drama, and all these people competing to get people to come into their group and it's refreshing to know that the Bible is Christianity, that is grace, is our way out from these things. So it's rather disappointing, I'm certain, for people who want people to come in, and this goofy guy just can't seem to stand up. We'll have to judge him. He has problems. We'll keep an eye on him because, of course, we would know what to do. So, first of all, how do we play this game? Well, we need to learn first that you have to pay to play. You can't just start going wherever you want to go. That'd be goofy, and you'd probably do things you shouldn't do, and you wouldn't find out until you did it. Now, they reserved the right in Egypt to change the rules. That's Egyptianity 101. But it always costs the same. So no matter how the rules change in the game, you pay. There's a beautiful song I like. It's Jesus Paid It All, and all to Him I owe. That's wonderful because what He paid and purchased was me. I'm His inheritance. So young people, we're the inheritance of Christ. He bought us with His blood. But this is called the game. Now, when you're good at it, you learn how to navigate and survive. And as people perish, either and self-destruction or suicide is the topic now. This is part 2. And what's regrettable is this is a Darwinian lifestyle. Religion is based upon the Darwinian doctrine of survival of the fittest. And we all know that if the game doesn't evolve and adapt, people lose interest. But the other problem is the people who learn how to navigate and kind of push everybody else around, and they become the king of Egypt, you see. And what happens to these folks, that's not really important to them, whether they have lost their lives through suicide or paid so much to play the game that there's nothing left for them to live and to understand and to have enjoyed the life that they would have had. The king of Egypt really doesn't care. So let's talk about how to recognize this horrible thing called hypocrisy, and then how you can, by recognizing it, avoid that person, that is, come out to a person who loves you and come out to someone who's not practicing survival of the fittest, which is a strange thing for religionists to do who say they don't believe in evolution, but they certainly do practice it, because you have to learn to adapt to survive. They will tell you that. And they learn how to evolve, always evolving, always changing. Again, I tell people all the time, just stay in one place long enough and you'll see things change so much that they'll be coming back this direction. It's futility, Egyptianity is all about futility. It's futile, it's futility. You'll make bricks for nothing, for no purpose whatsoever. In Christianity, the grace, Christ, the grace, He will pay the price for you. Christianity is about utility. It's useful. It actually says the Bible says the love, referring to a personification of Christ, is useful. So there's utility in the grace. Futility here. They're never able to be satisfied. They're always groping and battling and arguing. Again, it's because they don't want the solution. You remember the mantra of Egyptianity is, we can find a problem for every solution. So when you come along and say, well, look, I'm not into that. I've been purchased by the blood of Christ. I'm not about to ante up and pay what some religious person says I owe. I'm not about to involve myself in it's performance driven, and that's the problem with it. And the practitioners, now they will become very angry. That's the first thing you need to do, is that when you stop, when Jesus said, "Come unto me, all you that labor and are heavy laden," he was referring to the side effects and consequences of participating in the game, the futility of the game. You've tried, you did what you could, you gave your time, your money, your interest, and then those that burn out the fastest, these practitioners, they have to move on, and as they move up, it's a pyramid scheme, and you'll hear people talk about that. And what is the practitioners? They move up as fast as they can to get up here, because up here they don't even lift a finger. They do not, as Jesus said, do not lift a finger. So the goal is, how do I aspire to get away from the futility that they're willing to impose? So what they do is, he wants up here, the big religious successful guy, and he puts all these people down here, and what he does, he keeps them busy. And it is frustrating. It's even difficult to stand up in this system. You find that it becomes arduous, it becomes discouraging, but he keeps feeding them. About the time they're about to rest, and they look over and see some sheep that are enjoying still waters and green pastures, he gives them something else, and they'll argue another topic, and maybe they'll all, but they won't notice. You just get so caught up in trying to play the game, and you keep paying more, and it's as you keep trying to give more, and then they tell you something else to be worried about, some other thing some other cause, and we go out rather than calling people to come out, which is what Christ did. And kids, when Jesus came, he didn't come to give us a standard according to which we might perform, rather to demonstrate himself as the only person, first chosen, and then able, and then willing to fulfill all the demands of God's justice. He's the only person ever chosen, first of all, who was able and also willing to satisfy the Father on our behalf. Jesus just basically, he ends the game. He ends the game. And here's the problem is there's all this that people gave up and lost to play this game. And here's their lives when it's over. They're ruined. They either were destroyed by it or self-destructed, which is the word in the Bible where it says, "For God so loved the world," of lost sinners, that is, that he gave his only begotten Son, in order that whosoever, that is, whichever of those lost sinners is believing into him, might not self-destruct. So the very purpose of Jesus coming, and in that context, you will self-destruct in this thing called the societal or social machine called Egypt. And Egyptianity will constantly ruin you. And Jesus will come along and say, "No, I paid it all. You don't need to give up your resources. And you guys over here, you're all dead and worn out and in futility, and you're performing, and you're trying to outperform the other, and you're fighting to get to the top of the pyramid, and never even knew that at the top of the pyramid is just, it's a reward for someone who's willing to destroy others." But in the grace, in this wonderful grace land, there's a new covenant, there's love for one another, which is the fulfillment of all of God's law. There's the obedience to Christ, which is to prefer to listen to him who always promotes love, advocates his Father who so loved us, speaks of his Spirit who builds us up. We all work together. We all come together, and we have the same honor for each other and high honor and opinion that God has of us. And we are so free that the religious world knows that this is nothing. This is no outcome that would happen. And in this condition of being covenanted together, which is referring to a relationship that was literally the new covenant, which is in the blood of Christ, we have new minds, new hearts, new spirits. We have new glossaries. We have new words that we speak, not the dead words of the world. We have new spirits. We have a mind that by serving God with it, we become transformed by its renovation. We have the new covenant, a new commandment, not another, a new commandment. And in this we have fellowship, which is into that good news, the gospel. We won't be arguing about our fellowship, our communion, because it's into the gospel. Anyway, we all are much better off to come out and live. So when you notice a pretender, they're asking you to come in, and they want to come in and break this apart. And it's called sectarianism. They want to do this. But now, the reason why they can't advocate anything else is because they believe this is all there is. They believe there has to be different sectarians, or sects, that is, because they don't understand any other way to live. They're in Egypt. They just tell you which pyramid to prefer. And even when you look at sectarianism and break this unity up, this one unit, it's called a unit circle. A unit circle. You can learn that in your trigonometry class. But notice the word here, one. But even when you break it up, it just becomes small pyramids. So even in our mathematics, the gracious God's warning us about doing this. We can live according to His grace, where you're not performance driven, you're not pretending and going along in pretense to knowing that what you're doing would hurt other people. And that's why Jesus was very angered at people that would do that, and who would come in and stop people from living according to His covenant, which is a life-giving, liberating, coming out through that Exodus, that gracious crossing of the Red Sea to the land of promise, the grace land, communion, which follows that, a fellowship into the gospel, and all these joyful things. So this is what we teach young people. This is why you come to the congregation, you come in and assemble, and you're always encouraged, and you're always taught to know the difference. Because hypocrisy will lead to suicide. Because first, hypocrisy leads to social condemnation, which is what it's about. People need a reason to condemn someone. They need, this is not talking about judging, discernment. This is talking about condemnation, which is from the word kata. Not that you guys need to know that. Krino, it's judging downwardly. This is where you get that little symbol where a downward thumb is given by someone, and you're so upset because you never want to get that downward thumb by your friend, and they do this downward, and it's on, I think even Facebook has a downward thumb symbol, and I just ruined that picture. But they will judge downwardly. So hypocrisy is intended to justify social condemnation, and then the person so condemned might not be able to handle it, and they could become so distressed that they don't know how to respond, and they might then take their own life. And that would be sad, because let's say this beautiful child here would have lived out a great life and been a contributor and a positive influence to her society as God created her to be. So children, young people, you're more beautiful, created in the image of God, than the ugly face of religion, that ugly face that is always a mask. And that's why they wear a mask, because when you take that mask off, you see how ugly it really is. They want to form you into the image of their religion and the likeness of their negations, and it will always be shaped like a pyramid, and it will always teach you to fight to get to the top so that you can lower others beneath you. So that's enough. It's good to know these things and to be aware of it.